Kyo is a nasty gooner who moves to an all-girls school hoping to swipe his dusty V-card. However, when he gets caught peeping on the girls, he gets thrown in the school's prison. But the wardens are all thick dummy mommies who take turns punishing him. It all starts at the Hachimitsu Private Academy, where Kyo and his loser friends are stressing over not getting any chicks, even though they are the only 5 guys in the whole academy. Tired of being a virgin, Kyo tells his friends that he's going to talk to some girls, which shocks them. But when he approaches the girls, his brain glitches, and the girls walk off without talking to him, leaving him embarrassed. Later in class, he drops his eraser, which falls next to a girl named Chio, who spots a sumo wrestler sticker on it and quickly looks away, making him think he lost all his aura in front of her. However, after class, Chio shows Kyo that he has the same eraser, and the bro finally realizes that the plot gods are about to give him some action. For the next few hours, he and Chio keep talking about sumo wrestling and grow closer. Suddenly, Chio asks if he'd like to go to a sumo wrestling tournament with her, and Kyo immediately agrees. That night, while he's daydreaming about playing with Chio's wagamamas, his loser friends suddenly suggest they peep on the girls tonight. But he doesn't want to join them and have Chio think he's a diddler. However, after some temptation with his friends, he puts on his Batman costume and goes hunting for some cookie. Soon after, they reach the roof of the women's locker room and decide to use a mobile phone tied with a rope to peek inside. Unfortunately for them, the rope breaks and the phone falls inside the room, which makes them all panic. Since it's Kyo's phone, he jumps into the room to grab it, but suddenly realizes that Chio is standing right behind him. Realizing he's gonna get rammed harder than Bonnie Blue, Bro starts saying his final prayer, but luckily for him, Chio has weak eyesight and mistakes him for her friend. She then starts taking her clothes off, and Kyo's friends all bust together while watching from the live feed. Chio then drags Kyo into the bathroom with the other girls, and his friends decide to join him too for the fun of it. However, they are suddenly attacked by crows, and members of the underground student council show up to detain them. Meanwhile, in the women's bath, Kyo quietly joins Chio.
Yeah, boy.
But before he is exposed for having a sausage, another student barges in and informs the girls that the boys have been caught peeping. Immediately, everyone runs out of the bathroom, giving Kyo the chance to escape. Outside, Kyo's friends are about to be burned alive for their sins, but even then, they refuse to give up Kyo because bros come before hoes. As Kyo watches from a distance, a random girl approaches him and explains that his friends have been caught by Hana and Meiko, who serve on the underground student council. Kyo then asks who she is, and she introduces herself as Marie, the president of the underground student council. Seconds later, a beaten-up Kyo is dragged through the mud and joins the rest of his friends, and Kyo tears up, thinking he blew his chances with Chio. The next day, as the rest of the school watches, Marie sentences all 5 boys to a month inside the prison. She also explains that anyone who tries to escape will earn an increased sentence for everyone, and 3 consecutive offenses will result in expulsion. That evening, the boys are tasked with building a barrier around the prison, but when they try to argue, the vice president, Meiko, keeps them disciplined. However, she starts torturing them like a dummy mommy, so Kyo steps up and tells her she's taking it too far. Later during dinner, Kyo expects his friends to be happy that he saved them, but the boys actually scold him because getting stepped on by Meiko was giving them tickles in the pickles. Despite being shocked, Kyo lets the boys be, so the next day, they all enjoy getting tortured by Meiko. Unfortunately for them, Mari sees this and sends her secretary, Hana, to shake things up. Initially, Hana appears to be a happy and cheerful person, but when she catches one of the boys staring at women on racetracks, she creates a dent in his skull with her heel. Meiko then reveals that Hana is actually a black belt in karate, and Hana demonstrates her skills by breaking every bone in their bodies. She then tasks the boys with collecting herbs, and while doing so, Kyo spots a baby crow that has fallen from its nest. He climbs up the tree to put it back, and that's when he spots Chio at the window. She says she knew he was a good person at heart, and he would never be a peeping Tom like his friends. Kyo wants to tell her that he's also a degenerate, but Chio spots Hana below the tree and quickly walks off. Suddenly, Kyo promises to her that they'll soon watch sumo wrestling together, and this makes her blush as she leaves. Kyo then starts to worry that Hana has come looking for him, but she starts taking a leak under the tree, much to his shock. Suddenly, a crow eats him off the tree, and he falls right next to Hana, getting a first-person view of her pearly gates. As Hana screams, Meiko and the others arrive too, and she begs Kyo not to say a word to anyone. Seeing her cry, Meiko tells the boys to go back to their cells, where Kyo is treated like the alpha male for breaking a cycle like Hana. Kyo silently takes the praise, knowing all too well his sausage would be chopped if Meiko learns what really happened. The next day, Mari is called to the chairman's office, and the old man tells her that the punishment she's inflicting on the boys is too harsh. Mari argues that they would have been expelled under normal circumstances, adding that not a single person on campus wanted this school to transition from girls only to co-ed. The man argues that change is good from time to time, but Hana blames him for this incident, as he opposed everyone and invited boys to this school. The chairman gives up but also reminds her that the prison should be closed on weekends, so Marie agrees to free the boys for 2 days before leaving. Meanwhile, Meiko is beating up the boys as usual, and when Kyo asks if they'll get the weekends off, she says no. Just then, Mari arrives and tells them they'll be free for 3 hours if they behave, and Kyo gets excited to spend that time with Chio. This motivates him to work even harder, and as Meiko and Mari watch, Hana arrives with the new Underground Student Council guidebook. Mari takes the guidebook to the chairman's office, but when she finds the room empty, she sees his computer screen and realizes Bro was gooning to Mia Khalifa. This makes her so pissed that she decides to cancel the weekend holiday for the boys and tells Meiko to make them work overtime. Kyo tries to argue, but Meiko smacks him to the ground, causing him to cry as he'll miss his date. Just then, he sees some ants crawling into a hole, and this gives him the idea to break out. The following day, he wakes up and goes along with everything until he gets the opportunity to slip away into a shed. There, he uses a fork to carve a hole into the wall, and after he exits, he sees Chio throw a piece of paper at him. The note tells him that the sumo wrestling show is at 1 p.m. Saturday and she will be waiting for him there. This immediately makes him feel better, and as she joins the others, he sees Meiko stepping on the face of one of the boys named Gakuto. Turns out, Kyo forgot to clean up a pile of trash because he was too busy being in love, and now his friend is paying for it. That night, Kyo notices that Gakuto is acting unfazed, so he gives the man a bit of his dinner to apologize for causing him trouble. At first, Kyo doesn't think much of it, but later, Gakuto shows him the note Chio threw at Kyo earlier, which means he knows about Kyo's escape plan, and he's definitely planning something sus. The following day, Hana joins Meiko to oversee the prisoners, and while others are bummed, she notices that Kyo looks rather worried. Later, while working, Kyo tells himself that Gakuto will never rat him out, but Gakuto mocks him by doing sumo wrestler stomps, which makes him question himself. Soon after, Kyo returns to the shed to continue carving the hole, but Hana appears and asks if he told the others about what happened between them. Kyo assures him that he hasn't said a word to anyone, but she refuses to believe him and demands that he take a leak right here so they're even. Kyo refuses at first, but when she threatens to crush his coconuts, he agrees to do it. They head into the shed, where she gets on her knees like a good girl and waits for him to whip it out. Luckily for him, Gakuto arrives at the last second, so Hana gets bummed and leaves. Afterward, Kyo thanks Gakuto for saving him, but when Gakuto walks into the shed, Kyo realizes he might spot the hole and rat him out. Surprisingly, Gakuto already knows about the hole and adds that he actually wanted to help Kyo escape because he wants him to do something for him. Meanwhile, Meiko joins Mari in the shower and asks if it's wise to oppose the chairman, but Mari says only model prisoners will get off DAS. At the same time, the chairman returns to his office and realizes that Mari has seen the Gunner stuff he left on screen. At night, Kyo asks Gakuto why he wants to escape with him, and Gakuto says he has to grab some limited edition figurines, which only come out once every 40 years. However, he also knows that Kyo will be gone for at least 3 hours, and Meiko and Hana will definitely suspect that he's missing. Thus, Gakuto says he will stay behind and distract them with his master plan. Meanwhile, Mari runs into the chairman in the halls, and the man drops a book in his hand, revealing his entire collection of goon material. Seeing this, Mari coldly steps on it and walks away, promising to treat the prisoners even harsher from tomorrow, so they don't become a wanker like him. The next day, as the boys are working, Kyo slips a saw into the pile of trash so that Kyo can use it to weaken the pillars of the shed. Soon after, Gakuto starts an argument with Kyo because he got beaten up again, thanks to Kyo not handling the trash. They start fighting to attract attention, and Hana quickly pushes them both into the shed, causing it to be destroyed. When Meiko arrives, Hana puts all the blame on the boys, so Meiko beats them both up and tasks them with rebuilding the shed. After the girls leave, Kyo and Gakuto smirk as this was all part of their plan. However, Hana returns with a chair and says she'll watch the entire thing, which foils their master plan. She also asks Kyo to have a word with her, and when he arrives, she warns him not to tell anyone about the pee incident. She also makes him drink tea for some reason before sending him off, and Kyo begs Gakuto to come up with another plan to get rid of her. Gakuto tries his best but fails, only to notice that Kyo is wiggling his legs as if he needs to use the restroom. He immediately asks Hana to let Kyo take a leak, and she grants him permission. However, she starts following him because she wants to see him do it as he did. So Kyo takes a run for it and locks himself in the toilet.
Come on, man.
Despite this, she jumps inside from the top and tells him to whip it out, which leads to a struggle between them. Hana manages to overpower him, but as she unzips, Bro lets it go like Elsa and makes it rain on her. Meiko hears her scream and rushes to check up on her, only to find her covered in filth. Kyo uses this chance to escape, and later, Meiko tells the boys that Hana will be taking a few days off, which excites Gakuto, as Kyo can now escape. The next day, Gakuto and Kyo get to building the shed, and finally, they finish cracking a hole in the wall. During lunch break, Gakudo asks Kyo to go out and look around today. He also asks Kyo to return an hour before the bell to avoid raising suspicion. Sometime later, Kyo sneaks out of the hole into the outside world, where he sees a guy feeling his girlfriend's cakes, which makes Kyo so annoyed that he vows to do the same to Chiyo. Just then, he sees the chairman come in with a shovel to bury his Gunner collection, and as Kyo watches, he loses track of time. When the bell rings, Meiko returns to the shed and asks Gakudo where Kyo is, but the guy starts sweating because Kyo is late. Seeing this, Meiko suspects something and decides to check the area herself, but Kyo manages to slip back just in time. Unfortunately, her Nicki Minaj cakes get stuck in the hole, and it seems as if he will be caught. Luckily, Meiko trips on the broken wooden boards, and this gives him enough time to slip out. After seeing him, Meiko leaves frustrated, while Gakudo scolds Kyo for being late. Kyo then tells him that they need to make the hole larger so his rear doesn't get stuck again, unaware that their friend Shingo is listening in on them. At night, he approaches them to ask what they are talking about, but they try to play cool. Just then, they are distracted by Meiko and her honkers of mass destruction, and she's come bearing the things they had requested. Since she's in her night suit, all of them start eyeing her like she's the last slice of pizza, and wish she let them hit it. She then puts up the next week's schedule, and the boys realize that she has marked the next Saturday as the track club's regional meet. When they ask her about it, she says they will have to do tasks regarding the meet on that day, and 3 of them will watch belongings while the other 2 will do miscellaneous jobs. Unfortunately for them, Shingo is assigned to watch with Kyo and Gakudo. The next day, Gakudo tells Kyo it'll be nearly impossible to reach the hole during the club meet because they will be assigned to a different area. On top of that, they will be accompanied by Shingo, making them wonder if they should let him in on the plan. Just then, Shingo walks by them and decides to overhear their conversation, but the guy is so dumb that he thinks Kyo and Gakudo are planning to play Smash Bros with his cakes. At night, when he steps into the shower, he sees Kyo and Gakudo planning something, but his earlier assumption makes him think they're playing with each other's swords. When the boys spot him, they cryptically ask him to join them, but Shingo gets scared thinking they're going to crack him from the back. So the next day, he asks Meiko to let him do the miscellaneous tasks so he doesn't have to spend alone time with them. After Meiko permits him, Kyo and Gakudo are free to continue their plan, but they still don't know how they will reach the hole from their watch post. That's when Kyo spots an underground tunnel and uses it to move from the post to the shed without being seen. After confirming it with Gakudo, Kyo crawls back but overhears Shingo telling their other 2 friends that Kyo and Gakudo are being freaky with each other. Despite this, Shingo says that he doesn't judge them for swinging the other way. Right as Meiko arrives and tells them to stop slacking, Kyo then looks up and sees her standing right on top of the drain, giving him a heavenly view of her pearly gates. She then starts squatting right on top of Kyo, and bro just lies there admiring the view.
Wow! Beautiful!
After getting his fill, he decides to leave, but Meiko's heel slips into the crack right into his bum, causing him an injury. At the end of the day, she asks Kyo why he was spending too long in the bathroom, and Gakudo responds to him that he has a stomach issue. However, Shingo flips him around and shows her the blood on Kyo's back, making everyone think he has hemorrhoids. A few days later, Meiko arrives with the items requested by the boys, and Gakudo gets a music player, which is essential to his plan. Meiko also tells them they will be taking a computer lab class with the girls tomorrow, which excites the boys. However, the next day, the girls are repulsed by them because they smell like bum cheeks. Just then, Chiyo walks into the class and signals to Kyo that she's eager to go out with him this Saturday. After that, Kyo asks Gakudo about his plan, and he says he will play pooping sounds on his music player to show that Kyo is in the toilet during his 3-hour absence. However, the lab computer has its web search locked, and he cannot download the sound effects. This means they will have to make pooping sounds for real and record it, but Kyo doesn't want to do it as it will make him lose all his aura. When Gakudo steps up, Kyo warns him that he will never befriend a girl ever again if he goes through with this. However, Gakudo wants Kyo to have his date with Chiyo, so he presses the record button and craps his pants. This immediately tanks his reputation, and Kyo cries for the heroic sacrifice of his friend. During work hours, Gakudo is wearing different pants, and when Meiko asks why, he tells her he soiled his pants. This makes the other boys giggle as they think it's due to all the backshots Gakudo has been getting from Kyo. Meanwhile, the chairman ends up digging all his Gunner material back up, but now he's ashamed of himself and vows to seal them away for good. He heads outside and uses cement to bury his collection. Inside the school, Kyo and Gakudo are planning their escape route, not knowing that the chairman has spotted the hole in the wall. When Kyo goes to check the hole, he sees that it has been shut by cement, which foils their weeks of hard work. During lunch, things get heated between Kyo and Gakuto as the latter soiled his pants and ruined his reputation for nothing. That night, as Kyo hears Gakuto cry like a baby, he makes up his mind that he will go through with his plan. The next day, he tells Gakuto that he will disguise himself as a girl and sneak out through the front gate because he doesn't want Gakuto's sacrifice to go to waste. Soon after, Gakuto slacks off during work, and Meiko beats him up for it, but he intentionally honks her honkers to piss her off even more. After Meiko leaves, Kyo tells Gakuto to lie low, but for some reason, Gakuto is hell-bent on attracting more attention. Thus, when he spots Marie, he runs towards her, dodges Meiko's attempts to stop him, and falls next to Marie, dragging her skirt down with him. Immediately, Meiko turns into the Undertaker and hits him with the tombstone pile driver, before making his face look like mashed potatoes. Afterward, the boys arrive to make sure Gakuto is still alive, and he tells Kyo that this was necessary for his plans. That night, Meiko summons him into her office for punishment and pulls out an electric razor. Moments later, Gakuto walks back to the prison cell with a buzz cut and a bag full of his hair, which he will use to make a wig for Kyo. Turns out, he got himself in trouble on purpose as he believes it's a small price to pay for those figurines that he wants. Kyo once again tears up at Gakuto's sacrifice and becomes even more determined to break out. The next day, the boys cook up a plan to sneak into the women's laundry room and steal a uniform. Since the door is locked during off hours, Kyo must sneak in while the worker is there. However, there is not enough time for Kyo to slip in, so Gakuto starts cussing at the work to distract him. As the worker heads towards Gakuto to beat him up, Kyo comes out of the vent and sneaks into the room to look for the uniform. However, all he manages to find are Meiko's plot covers, so he heads into the fan to procure the uniforms. Unfortunately for him, the worker is done with Gakuto's nonsense, so he returns to his van and locks the back door while Kyo is still inside. Since tomorrow is the big day, Gakuto is eagerly waiting for his figurines to arrive, while Chiyo is excited to watch sumo wrestling with Kyo. The next day, it's the regional club meets, and the boys are tasked to watch over the storage area. Soon after, some athletes come over to give their bags to them, but they get weirded out thinking Gakuto's soldier is giving them a salute. In reality, he is hiding the music player in his pants, which Kyo will plant in the toilet and play poop sounds to make others think he has a bad stomach. Meanwhile, Chiyo is making rice balls so she and Kyo can have something to eat during the matches. Her friend Mayume asks her if she's really sure about going on a date with Kyo, and she assures Mayume that it's not that big of a deal. On the other hand, as Kyo and Gakuto watch some bouncy jiats on the track, they reminisce about the time they have spent in prison. After cheering their friendship, Kyo decides to make his move, placing the music player in the toilet and using the window to escape into the vent. After exiting from the other side, he uses Gakuto's hair as a wig, but a hair strand somehow makes its way to Meiko, who immediately recognizes it as Gakuto's hair. As she walks across to survey the area, Kyo is still in the middle of dressing up, but the jacket does not fit him. In the rush, he ends up tearing it from the back, but cleverly uses a backpack to cover it. Meiko sees him from behind and thinks it's a random student, so she leaves without saying anything, much to Kyo's relief. Meanwhile, Chiyo is on the train, excited to meet Kyo and watch sumo wrestling with him. However, she's also nervous because Mayumi told her it sounds like a date. At that time, Kyo is hiding behind a tree, wondering if he should just walk out of the front door like it's nothing. He worries the girls will recognize him and beat him up, but he decides to act confident and go for it. Right at the gate, someone stops him from behind, and it turns out to be Mari, who tells him not to wear his bag like this as it's against the rules. However, when she sees the torn jacket underneath the bag, she apologizes to Kyo, thinking she's a random girl, and lets him go. Meanwhile, Meiko comes over to check up on Gakuto and asks him where Kyo is. He tells her Kyo is in the bathroom, after which she spots his open zipper and beats him up for being a diddler. At the same time, Kyo finally makes it to the meeting spot, where he meets Chiyo, who hands him a towel so he can wipe off his sweat. Bro immediately busts in his pants the moment he smells her towel, but she takes it a step further by dragging him inside the arena. As they watch the match, Kyo is ecstatic to see how excited Chiyo is, but then she pulls out her bland rice balls, and Bro is forced to act like they taste good. Back in school, Meiko realizes that Kyo has been gone for too long, so she heads into the toilet to drag him out. However, Gakuto plays the pooping sounds at the last second, and she gets so disgusted that she walks out and smacks Gakuto. As Bro lies there in tears, happy that his sacrifice was worth it, the other girls see him and wonder if he has an extra chromosome. Meanwhile, as Kyo is stuffing his face with rice balls, Chiyo finds him cute and swoops closer to take a selfie with him. However, Kyo's stomach starts acting up, and he heads to the toilet. After he leaves, Chiyo spots a woman's uniform in his bag, and this completely changes her mood. When Kyo returns, she tells him he's disgusting and runs off, leaving the guy confused. That's when he looks over at his bag and sees that the uniform has Chiyo's name on it, leaving the guy completely heartbroken. Back in school, Shingo arrives at the baggage area and notices that Kyo is not there. He assumes Kyo is slacking off in the bath and decides to rat him out. When Meiko arrives, he tells her that Kyo is slacking. So Meiko demands that Kyo come out of the toilet or she will break down the door. Gakudo tries to play the pooping sounds again, but the controller does not work, and Meiko ends up breaking the door down. To everyone's surprise, they find Kyo sobbing on the seat, and Meiko is so repulsed that she simply leaves. Afterward, Gakudo praises Kyo for making it back in time, but Kyo keeps crying and says it's hopeless, making Gakudo realize that he did not bring back the figurines. Now pissed, Gakudo reminds him that he lost both his hair and dignity just for those figurines, so Kyo quickly tells him that he actually brought them in his bag. This immediately fixes Gakudo's mood, and he shrugs it off, thinking Kyo was simply teasing him. Kyo tries to tell him about his sumo date, but Gakudo quickly hides the figurines and suggests they go outside before someone suspects something. As soon as they step outside, they run into Mari, who accuses Kyo of escaping and going on a date with Chiyo. Kyo pretends to be innocent, but his cover is blown when Mari reveals that Chiyo actually posted their picture on social media. Mari then reveals that Chiyo is actually her younger sister, and after Meiko finds Gakudo's hair in their bag, Mari figures that Kyo used them as a wig and stole a girl's uniform to escape from school. With no other option, Kyo admits to his crimes, and Meiko reveals that the uniform he stole belongs to Chiyo, which makes things even worse for him. As Mari begins walking away, Meiko tells the others to go back to the prison, while Kyo stays here and prays for a quick death. After they leave, Shingo punches Kyo in the face for breaking the bros before Ho's code, but all Kyo can do is say sorry. Later that day, Meiko drags Kyo to the solitary confinement for trying to diddle the president's sister. Kyo doesn't even say anything and curls up like a dog because he's extremely ashamed of what he did. The next day, Mari watches as Meiko puts Kyo through a harsh interrogation about how he acquired the wig. Kyo takes all the blame on himself to clear Gakudo's name, and even under immense pressure from Meiko, he refuses to fold. At last, Mari asks him why he specifically stole Chiyo's uniform, and Kyo says he didn't know it was Chiyo's as he picked one at random. After this, Mari heads to Chiyo's room, but Chiyo neither responds nor opens the door. The next day, Mari gathers all the boys and concludes that Kyo acted alone, and Gakudo is shocked that he took all the blame. In the end, Mari extends everyone's sentence by 1 month, but as for Kyo, he will be expelled from the school. Later, as everyone feels bad for Kyo, Gakudo bursts out with anger, asking who gave Mari the authority to expel students. Shingo tells him not to create a fuss, but Gakudo asks him why he's acting so cold towards Kyo, even though they've known each other since childhood. In response, Shingo asks why Kyo didn't tell them about the breakout, believing he didn't trust them enough on this matter. This basically means Kyo does not consider them friends, and everyone is heartbroken by this. They ask him if Kyo told him anything, but Gakudo denies it as he's afraid of the consequences. Meanwhile, in Mari's office, Meiko reminds Mari that they don't have the power to expel students, but she tells him she's got it covered. Subsequently, Kyo is sulking in her cell, as he not only lost the love of his life but also his entire friend circle. Meanwhile, Chiyo finally gets up from the bed and asks her friend Mayume to have lunch with her. While eating, she admits that she overreacted when she first saw her uniform in Kyo's possession, and she never gave him a chance to explain himself. Just then, she overhears some girls talking about how Kyo broke out from school while wearing a girl's uniform and is now being expelled for it. Just then, Meiko brings Kyo to her office, where Mari asks him to quit school, which confuses him, as he thought he was being kicked out. Mari then tries to manipulate him by saying that everyone knows he stole a girl's uniform, and it will be impossible for him to survive in this school now. Kyo falls for her tactics and agrees to sign the documents, but his only regret is that Chiyo will never know the truth. Just then, Chiyo barges into the office in protest, demanding to know why Kyo has to leave school. Mari accuses him of illicit conduct, so Chiyo says she was equally involved, and she should be expelled too, as she was the one who invited Kyo to go out with her. When Mari says he even told Chiyo's uniform like a degenerate, Chiyo turns to Kyo to ask why he did it, and Kyo says it was a pure coincidence. At this, Meiko smacks him in the face, but Chiyo embraces him and tells Meiko to back off. She then says she is dropping out too and signs the papers, and Mari cannot understand why she's so obsessed with this weirdo. At this, Chiyo repeats Mari's own quote that anyone who likes crows can never be a bad person, and then reveals she saw Kyo help a baby crow that fell from its nest. Even though she's moved, Mari stays in denial, thinking Chiyo mistook him for someone else, and demands Kyo sign the withdrawal papers. This time, Kyo tells him to shove it up her rear end, as he will never sign it, so Mari tells Meiko to take him back to his cell. That night, as he returns to his cell, he recalls how Chiyo's peaches felt against his cheeks, and that alone is enough to make him stay in this school. However, his cellmates are all upset with him, except for Gakuto, because he was Kyo's partner in crime. That night, Mako asks Mari if she is okay with how things are, but Mari reveals she plans to expel all 5 of those boys from this school. For the next few days, she assigns Mako to spy on the boys to learn of their hobbies. Gakuto is obsessed with figurines, Joe is all about his ant farm, Andre hides a sussy diary under his bed, and Shingo has a disordered room because he's pissed about his sentence being extended. The next day, the boys are tasked with cleaning the storeroom and the restroom. So while Shingo teams with Joe and Andre to tackle the storeroom, Kyo asks Gakuto to help with the restrooms. However, Shingo tells Gakuto to come with them, forcing Kyo to work all by himself. Despite being left out, Kyo stays positive, as feeling Chiyo's peaches is the ultimate reward for his suffering. As he gets to cleaning the restroom, he sees that one of the stalls is occupied, so he decides to wait. Soon after, Hana comes out of the toilet, and Kyo is immediately startled by her. When he tries to ignore her, she follows him inside and reminds him of what he did to her last time. She says she will do the same to him, but since she is short on time, she gives him a scare and joins Mako and Mari, who are collectively planning to expel all the boys from the school. They inform her that 3 attempts to escape will result in an automatic expulsion, but Mary admits the boys are not dumb enough to escape 3 times. She intends to defame them using their weaknesses, which will force the chairman to kick them out. Hana then says that Kyo was cleaning the toilets alone, and Mako believes he has been shunned by the others. She also adds that this Shingo is the main culprit in singling Kyo out, and Hana believes they can use this against him. The next day, Mako asks Shingo to have a word with him, and this makes everyone else nervous. Taking him to her office, she opens a box of desserts and starts eating them in front of him, which makes his pickle tickle. She then allows Shingo to have all the dessert he wants, but in return, she wants him to do something. Later in the shower, Kyo tells Gakuto that he's not bothered by his cold shoulder because he understands his position. Gakuto is about to say something, but Shingo walks in just then, and Kyo asks him what Mako said. Shingo refuses to tell him, so when Kyo points out that he's got cream on his face, Shingo wipes it and tells him to mind his business. After he leaves, Gakuto also leaves the room, but he feels terrible for ignoring Kyo, even though he took all the blame. The next day, during work, a gust of wind lifts some plots, and when the boys look at it, they are beaten up by Mako, except for Andre and Shingo. Later, Andre mentions that he and Shingo haven't been punished lately, as he always enjoys getting crushed by Mako's juicy drumsticks. Just then, he accidentally hits Joe's ant farm, and Joe grabs him by the collar, threatening to end him if he tries hurting his precious ants. Even though Andre apologizes, Joe goes mad, so Kyo and Gakuto have to hold him back from turning Joe into a pancake. Seeing this makes Shingo nervous, and later, he heads to Mako's office, where she asks him for information on the boys. He simply says everyone is on the edge, so Mako offers to give him tasty food if he gives her more info. At this, Shingo tells her about the fight between Joe and Andre, so she permits him to have food with her. The next day, she tells Mari and Hana about Joe's obsession with ants, and Hana plans to use it against them. Meanwhile, Andre apologizes to Joe again, and Joe also apologizes for reacting so strongly. After that, the boys head outside to play tag, and while Joe plays with his ants, Kyo watches them from afar because they don't want to talk to him. Just then, he notices that there are a lot of crows in the sky, but he does not think much of it. Soon after, he sees Mako and Shingo murmuring behind the fence, which tickles his spidey senses. Moments later, Shingo calls Joe to distract him from the ants, and Kyo notices that Mari and the others are also there. Just as Shingo and Joe are talking, the crows suddenly start ganging up on the ants, and when Joe tries to save them, Mako stops him. Now desperate, he grabs Mako by the jugs and throws her aside, but Hana quickly kicks him in the face and knocks him out. As he watches his ants getting eaten, Mari arrives and shames him for hurting the vice president over some mere ants. She then tells Mako to throw him in the solitary confinement, but Joe is so pissed that he grabs a sharp piece of wood and leaps at Mari to send him to God. Luckily, Kyo jumps in and stops him from hurting Mari, but as a result, he gets stabbed in his bum. As Mako approaches them to ask if Joe was concealing a weapon, Kyo says no, so she asks him to explain the blood. He says he merely fell on a tree branch, and the blood is from the hemorrhoids. Marie buys his story, but Joe's still charged at her with the intent to harm her, so she tells Mako to lock him up. Hana then asks permission to take Kyo to the nurse's office, and Hana allows her, but Kyo knows he's cooking. Meanwhile, Joe is thrown into the cell, and Mari says she'll report his aggression to the teachers as well. When Joe accuses her of ending his ants, Hana reveals that all of his ants are fine, and her crow is doing something called anting, which is something they do for self-medication and feather maintenance. This completely breaks Joe, as he really did not know, so they let him in to reflect on his actions. Meanwhile, Hana takes Kyo to the nurse's office, where she asks him to apply medicine to his wound. While he's doing so, she suddenly goes cold and tells him to pee in a cup. She even pulls out her phone and forces him to do it, but Kyo somehow manages to save his dignity. Not that he has any left at this point. In the end, Hana tells him to lie on his back so she can rain on him the same way he rained on her. Just as she climbs on top, Chio suddenly enters the nurse's office, which makes both Kyo and Hana panic. In the meantime, Mari heads to the chairman's office, where she tells the old man that Joe committed an act of violence. Before she can say further, the phone rings, but the chairman doesn't want to get up from his chair because he's hiding a new Gunnar collection behind his back. In the meantime, Chio looks around the nurse's office for Kyo but is unable to find him because he is hiding under the bed with Hana. Being so close to Hana's lips, especially when they're both going commando, makes Kyo's sausage act up, and Hana feels something long and hard pressing against her. Eventually, Chio leaves the nurse's office, and Kyo quickly crawls out to apologize, saying that his little guy has a mind of its own. However, he realizes that Hana has passed out. Meanwhile, in the chairman's office, as the old man gets up to take the phone, he leaves behind his Gunnar mousepad, which disgusts Hana so much that he straight up walks out of the office. Subsequently, Shingo opposes Meiko for setting Joe up, but she threatens to tell the boys that he's a spy if he refuses to cooperate. The very next day, Joe joins the rest of the boys and says he was given a good meal and dessert in the cell. During break, Shingo starts bullying Kyo, but Joe tells him to stop acting like a brat, which raises tensions between them. Meiko notices this and tells them to get back to work, during which Joe offers water to Kyo and thanks him for saving him. Just like that, they rekindle their bond, and Joe feels dumb for not knowing that crows go hunting. However, Kyo tells him that something about that day felt odd, as the whole council was hanging out in the yard because they never hang out there. He also saw Shingo and Meiko talking secretly, but he could not figure out what they were saying. Meanwhile, Shingo is back in Meiko's office, and she gives him 3 hours to touch grass and ogle as many babes as he wants. Moments later, Shingo is outside and decides to get the root beer that Meiko had asked him to get. Meanwhile, Gakudo is praying to his figurine for forgiveness over leaving his comrade high and dry. He asks the figurine to guide him, not realizing that its sword has fallen. Later, Shingo hits the arcade but is defeated by a chick who's wearing his school's uniform. She asks him how he's here since all the boys are in prison, and he coldly tells her it's none of her business. In response, the girl leans over and asks him to address her respectfully as she's his senior. But Shingo gets a good view of her peaches and starts blushing. She finds it cute how he's getting nervous over such a common thing, but just then, her friends call her over, and she goes with them. Later, as Shingo returns to school, he starts blushing again, as he hasn't talked to a normal girl in a while and hopes to run into her again. Just then, Meiko returns, and he thanks her for letting him out. He asks if she'll let him out again, and she says it entirely depends on how well he does his job. Just then, she opens the root beer, and it splashes all over her body. So she angrily tells him that root beers are carbonated while giving him good fan service.
I'm gonna come. Oh.
After that, Shingo heads to the bathroom, where he finds a toy sword that fell from Gakudo's figurine. The next day, while the others are working, Meiko invites Shingo to the kitchen, where she makes fried chicken, and says she'll only let him have it if he gives her more info. That's when Shingo hands her the toy sword and says he found it in the bathroom. Meiko immediately throws it at his face, but it ricochets off the wall into the food she's preparing. As she tells him to get out, Gakudo is in the bathroom looking for the toy sword. That's when Hana shows up and tells him to get back to work. After that, they head to Mari's office, where Meiko brings the snacks she had been making. Mari takes a bite and praises Meiko's cooking, but just then, Mari finds the toy sword inside the snacks. Meiko starts sweating because Shingo had found it lying in the toilet, and Mari recognizes it as a green dragon crest blade. Now curious, Meiko searches the internet about the sword and then heads to the toilet to look for clues. There she gets her hands on Gakudo's figurine collection. So the next day, she rewards Shingo with another day out. Meanwhile, Gakudo is sulking in prison, wondering who took his precious collection. In Mari's office, Meiko tells her about the whole thing, but when Hana asks how she obtained the sword, Meiko starts sweating because she doesn't want to say it was from the toilet floor. Soon after, Shingo heads to the arcade to play games, but finds himself against an old man instead of the cutie he ran into last time. Suddenly, she appears from behind and starts fiddling with the joystick, telling him to focus or the old man will beat him. Since her peaches are pressing against him, Shingo wishes she were fiddling with his joystick instead.
Yeah, boy.
Afterward, she asks why he's out again, and he says he came to run some errands. Since he has time, she grabs his hand and tells him to come with her. She takes him to a food court where she treats him to an ice cream, while also joking that he looks like a hipster. Shingo says she also looks like a freak, and she starts laughing, which makes his heart skip a beat. After that, she urges him to exchange ice cream with her, and starts licking his piece, making him wish she were licking his other piece. Right before he can show her his own skills, she pulls out a couple of movie tickets and asks if he'd like to come with her, but Shingo says he does not have time today. Even though she's bummed, she says the tickets are valid till next week, but he does not know when he'll be let out again. Thus, she gives him her armband and asks him to put it on the barricade on the day he's going to be let out again. The next day, the prisoners are called outside, where Meiko shows Gakudo his figurine collection, as well as the missing sword. Gakudo says he has never seen it before, but she smacks him in the face, as she knows it is a limited edition collection that was available for sale on the day Kyo broke out. She suspects Gakudo conspired with Kyo to get it and asks him to admit to it if he wants it back. Gakudo holds himself back, so she starts squatting on it to make him fold. In the end, Gakudo can't hold back and snatches the figurine away from her, which is a clear sign that he aided Kyo's escape. However, Gakudo takes a deep breath and throws the figurine at the ground, breaking it into bits. He says these toys don't interest him at all, before casually walking back to his cell, when in reality, he is in tears for letting Kyo endure the bullying and punishment for so long. Mari claims that their plan has failed, and Meiko apologizes as she never expected Gakudo to go this far. Just then, Shingo returns and spots the toy sword, loudly claiming that he found it in the toilet. Hearing this, Mari immediately collapses, and later, Meiko gets on her knees to beg for forgiveness, while Mari violently brushes her teeth. Ignoring her, Hana returns to her office, but Meiko comes along and asks her to spank her cakes as punishment. Even then, Mari ignores her and announces that she will personally deal with prisoners from now on. Meanwhile, Gakudo comes clean with the rest, apologizing for everything he's done. Shingo proudly says he already suspected it and asks the others how they should punish Gakudo, but they believe that no punishment is needed. Joe adds that Kiyoshi is the reason why he's not expelled, and Andre adds that Gakudo destroyed his collection to make sure their sentence isn't extended further. Both of them agree to forgive Gakudo, but Shingo is not too happy about it. In his rage, he accidentally spills that he found the figurine in the bathroom, but when they ask how he knows it, he says he heard it from Meiko before leaving. Andre notes that Shingo has been spending a lot of time with Meiko, and it makes him jealous. Meanwhile, Meiko is sulking over Hana ignoring her, when in reality, she's brought her a gift. The next day, during work, Andre purposely messes up to get punished by Meiko, but she shocks everyone by dressing appropriately and not doing freaky things to the prisoners. However, being normal is exhausting for her, and she finally realizes that this is the punishment Hana intended for her. She gets so exhausted that she collapses, but Chio spots her and brings her to Hana's office. That's where she spots a mission report revolving around the boy's expulsion from school, but she's interrupted when Hana and Mari walk into the office. After she steps outside, Mari tells the others that her plan is at the final stage, not knowing that Chio is eavesdropping from the outside. Meanwhile, the whole group is worried for Andre because he's become depressed due to a lack of punishment from his Mami. Later, Meiko permits Shingo another day out but warns him that if he doesn't return in time, there will be consequences. Immediately, he puts up the armband on the barrier. And later, as the boys go to work, Kyo notices that Andre looks even more depressed. He realizes that a lot of weird things have been happening lately, so he approaches Shingo to ask if he knows anything. Before Shingo can say anything, Meiko suddenly appears and summons him to her office, which Kyo finds odd. Hours later, Shingo is at the movies when his babe Anzo arrives with popcorn. She then leans on him to get to her seat, but Bro gets bricked upon seeing her baby feeders. Meanwhile, the rest of the boys are tasked with tending the barricade, and on the way, they run into Chio playing a board game with Mayume. When Kyo glances at the board, he sees a hidden message on it, but he's too stupid to decipher it. Back at the movies, Shingo falls asleep, only to wake up to Anzu telling him that they should skip the movie and do something fun. As they walk out, Anzu asks him where they are going, and he decides to take her to a restaurant. However, she grabs his hand and suggests they go to a park. Back in the cells, Andre finally loses his mind and sees hallucinations of Meiko, inviting him to punishment. Somehow, he ends up in Meiko's office, where he finds his diary citing his desire to get punished by Meiko. The diary also says that if he walks out the door, he will get punished, so he decides to do what the diary says. In the shower, Gakudo notices that Kyo looks tense, so when he asks what happened, Kyo tells him about the message Chio left. Since it makes no sense to him, he writes it on the wall, and Gakudo immediately reads it, revealing that the council plans to expel them. Immediately, they tell Joe about it, but since Andre is not there, they rush out to warn him. By that time, Andre is already outside, where Meiko exposes her milk melons and offers to punish him, and he runs towards her, only to be stopped by the barbed wire. However, Bro is so down bad that he breaks the wire and lands at her feet, and the council immediately detains him for breaking out. That's when Gakudo notices that the wires were already cut, and Kyo realizes they've been set up by the Powerpuff Girls. Mari then praises Meiko for coming up with this brilliant plan, and all they have to do now is wait for Shingo to return. Shingo is still chilling with Anzu at the park, and when he tells her he fell asleep during the movie, she pinches his cheek, which makes him super happy. Seeing her lips, Bro turns into a caveman and makes a creepy face, causing her to back off. When she asks why he looks like that, he says it's normal because she was pinching his cheeks. Anzu asks him to pinch her cheeks too to see if it's true, and while he does it, she closes her eyes, expecting him to kiss her. However, Shingo gets up and starts scolding some brats who were bullying another boy, and this gesture makes her realize Shingo is a good person at heart. When the boys argue with him, he yells at them to behave, which makes them cry, and the bullied boy actually throws sand in Shingo's face and calls him a bully. After they leave, Anzu approaches him and tells him not to think much of it, but Bro starts sulking as he's also been a bully to Kyo. Admitting all his wrongdoings, he decides to go back to the prison and apologize to the boys, but Anzu starts crying, which shocks him. Back in prison, Mari tells the boys that this is their second offense, which means their sentence will be extended by 3 months. Shingo is not there, and Meiko says that if he is even a second late, that will be considered the final offense, which will result in expulsion. Turns out, Hana had given Anzu a position at the Underground Student Council, but in exchange, she was asked to befriend Shingo. The plan was to keep Shingo out of school and force a third offense so they could all be expelled from school. Anzu feels guilty for deceiving him and admits to the whole thing, even that she changed the timer on his watch. Shingo now has only 5 minutes left, and as Meiko patiently waits for the time to run out, the boys hope that he makes it back in time. On the way, Shingo almost gets hit by a truck, and the driver turns out to be a worker at the school. The man actually drives him back to school just in time, but when Shingo tries to open the door, it won't budge. Sadly, the time runs out, and this results in the third offense, which means they're all expelled from school. Later, as Shingo sits there overcome with guilt, Kyo tells him that he punched him when Kyo did the same thing as him. Shingo says he's okay with getting punched too, so Kyo lightly taps him on the shoulder and calls it even. After that, all of them forgive Shingo as he was also manipulated by the council, and this makes him tear up. He then admits to everyone that he might have actually rizzed Anzu, and he also feasted on her plots during the movie. Immediately, all the boys beat the living soul out of him, as they deem this crime unforgivable. The next day, they're all brought to the chairman's office for expulsion, but Chio barges in and reveals that it was all a plan concocted by the council. When she mentions the DTO document she saw, Mari denies it as she's already asked Hana to get rid of it. With no other choice, Chio simply leaves the room, after which Mari pressures the chairman to follow the rules and kick the boys out. After he agrees, the girls return to their office to have a party, and Meiko decides to do pull-ups on the door to celebrate. Midway, Anzu opens the door and makes her fall, before confessing her failure to carry out her task. Even then, Mari isn't upset because the mission succeeded, but after dismissing her, he asks Hana to keep an eye out for her. Afterward, Hana asks Meiko if she needs help since her plot cover is stuck on the door handle, but she says she's fine. When she tries to free herself, her plot cover breaks and she comes crashing down. Mari offers her a helping hand, and when Hana asks if she needs a new pair of plot covers, she says no and heads out in commando fashion. Meanwhile, in the cells, the boys refuse to go that easily, and that's when Shingo remembers something important. He claims he's seen a document titled DTO before on a computer screen, and Kyo figures that the document must be lying in the corrections office. All they need to do is break into the office and find the file. But the boys believe it's a dead end because the girls must have deleted the file. That's when Gakuto reveals that he's a computer genius, and he can restore the deleted files and emails. The boys still believe it's impossible because they only have 2 weeks left, but Kyo motivates them not to give up. Soon after, Meiko arrives with food, but she accidentally drops her broken plot cover on the floor. As she bends over to pick it up, she ends up giving Kyo a close-up of her taco.
Wow! Beautiful!
And at that moment, Kyo vows to do anything to avoid expulsion. The following day, while the boys are having breakfast, they wonder how they can break into the corrections office since Meiko is always there. The only time they are let out is during labor and showers, and there's not enough time during that period to do anything. Even when they are out in the halls, Meiko is always watching them, and that really limits their options. That's when Gakuto says that they can simply steal the key from Meiko and sneak into the office easily. The boys deem it impossible because she's an overpowered raid boss, but Gakuto believes they can use that against her. At night, when she comes to take rounds, she finds the boys doing arm wrestling, and Andre seems to be winning against everyone. When they declare him the strongest in school, Shingo says that Meiko might be stronger than Andre, but the boys say it's not true, as she's just a girl. Hearing this, Meiko takes the bait and barges into the cell, challenging Andre to an arm wrestling match. Gakuto suggests she warms up with him first, but Meiko thinks he's joking until he takes his shirt off and reveals his Giga Chad physique. Earlier, Gakuto had planned that the boys would keep Meiko busy while he sneaks into the office. As for the keys, he was hoping that Meiko would take off her jacket, but his plan goes to oblivion when she refuses to do so. After she easily defeats him, Kyo steps up to challenge her, and he proves to be a better opponent than Gakudo. However, the table collapses on them, and he ends up getting his face stuffed with her watermelons.
Nice.
Amidst the chaos, Gakudo manages to steal the keys from her, and now he needs the others to distract her as he heads into the office, downloads the restoration software, and recovers the files and emails. Kyo then asks for a rematch, and Meiko grants it to him, during which he tries his best to stall for time. However, when he realizes that Meiko's baby feeders are out, he gets hypnotized and loses the match. After him, Shingo challenges Meiko, revealing that he was once known as the Dynamite Arm Wrestler. Just then, he's about to tell his tale. Meiko says she doesn't care and starts the match, defeating him in seconds. Shingo's plan was to stall for time with his story, but after it fails miserably, Joe steps up to challenge Meiko. By then, Gakudo is already in the office, but he's struggling due to a poor internet connection. After Meiko defeats Joe instantly, it's Andre's turn to battle her, and he has to stall for 7 minutes. Fortunately, Meiko is distracted by a hair growing from Andre's chest, and this allows Andre to get a strong start. However, Meiko quickly recovers, only to realize that she can't keep focus as the hair keeps distracting her. Every time she moves his arm down, she sees the hair, and this allows Andre to overpower her. To counter this, she tries to win with speed before she can see the hair, but Andre stops her at the last second and blows out air, which causes the hair to move around like a lonely tree in the middle of a desert storm. Finding herself at a disadvantage once again, she looks at Andre's stupid face and sees that he's rolled his eyes back. This makes her realize that she can also close her eyes to win. So after locking in, she manages to beat Andre with only 1 minute left on the clock. After singing her own praise, she puts on her jacket and realizes that the keys are gone. Just as she turns around, she finds Gakudo behind her, acting as if he just picked the keys from the floor. She takes the keys and heads off, only for Andre to reveal that he only managed to download the software, but he didn't have enough time to obtain the files. At night, the boys are all depressed but also relieved that they did everything they could. They also cherish the time they've spent here as comrades, and this makes them all cry tears of joy. As days passed, the boys gave up trying to undo their expulsion, as their spirits had been completely broken. Gakudo took this so heavily that he lost his senses and started acting like he had an extra chromosome. Meanwhile, Mari feels accomplished as their mission was completed successfully, but for some reason, Meiko does not feel content. Later, while she's bringing in food for the boys, Chio carefully observes her. In the cell, she tells the boys that there are only 2 days left until the chairman signs their expulsion papers. She then allows them to have one meal of their choice on their last day, and they all list out the things they'd like to eat. Gakudo is still in a trance, so he ends up ordering rice with grasshopper toppings. After Meiko leaves, Kyo finds a note from Chio in his food, and she asks him to leave a reply in a piece of bread. Gakudo notices this and immediately tells everyone, but they are unfazed as it's all over for them. However, Gakudo returns to his normal self as he sees this as a beacon of hope, shocking everyone because he was pretending to have gone nuts all this time. However, their shock turns to disappointment as Gakudo goes back to being a doofus, making them realize they have no options left. Later, Chio finds a note from Kyo, bidding her farewell, only to look out the window, catching grasshoppers for Gakudo. The next day, as the boys get their final meal in the school, everyone is disgusted by the meal Gakudo had ordered, which is rice topped with grasshoppers. When he eats it, he finds it so gross that he returns to normal again and gets another brilliant idea to undo their expulsion, which involves using Chio. At that time, Mari checks in with the chairman to make sure the expulsion goes as planned. However, she gets disgusted because the old man is watching Johnny-san's tutorials on his computer and leaves him be. Back in the cell, Gakudo comes up with a brilliant plan, only to learn that they only have 1 day left, while this plan needs 2 days to work. Just then, Meiko enters the cell and demands that they sign their withdrawal request, adding that the school will be quiet without them. Kyo suspects she's going soft on them, and when Meiko sees Gakudo's bowl on the floor, she gets upset because she spent hours catching the grasshoppers. In anger, she buries her fish into his face before slamming him down. After she leaves, Kyo realizes that she's definitely not going soft on them. He decides not to give up so easily and suggests they write an appeal to the chairman on the withdrawal request. This might buy them a few days, as the chairman will have to investigate, which they can use to locate the DT files. Shingo is not very hopeful, but Kyo reminds him that the school has a wet t-shirt contest in summer, and he'll have a whole opai buffet if he somehow stays in school by then. The next day, when Meiko arrives to take their withdrawal requests, she finds an appeal attached to it, and they beg him to deliver it to the chairman. Meiko agrees to do it, but she's still raging at how much she had to run around just to catch the grasshoppers. Hours later, as the boys wait for what comes next, Meiko arrives and tells them to gather their belongings, As they step outside, they see that Meiko has torn their appeal and thrown it outside, which means all hope is lost for them. Meanwhile, Hana is in cooking class, about to put mushrooms in her dish. However, she drops one and bends down to grab it, causing the other to slide between her cakes. This immediately unlocks her memory of the day she and Kyo were under the bed in the nurse's office, much to her shock. On the other hand, the boys walk up the stairs to the chairman's office, where Marie greets them with a smirk. Just then, the chairman shows up and tells Meiko to take them back to the cell, shocking her as she tore their appeal. Back in the cell, the boys are confused, so Kyo reveals he actually used the appeal as a decoy, and the real message was written on the withdrawal requests, which Meiko never checked. Turns out, Kyo was there when he saw the chairman bury his pile of goon material, and he has used this as blackmail to have a word with him. Meanwhile, as Meiko waits outside the cells, Hana arrives with a knife in one hand and a mushroom in the other, wanting to slice off Kyo's mushroom. At that time, Kyo tells the chairman he only wrote what he wrote to grab his attention, and then he tells him that they were set up by the underground student council. They want 3 extra days to gather evidence, and the chairman agrees to grant it if they answered his question correctly. He asks if they prefer melons or cakes, so Kyo recalls the pictures in the chairman's magazines and picks cakes. The chairman's eyes light up as he claims that any man who likes cakes can never be bad, but he wants to know why they picked cakes over melons before he grants them extra days. The boys decide to discuss what the best answer could be, but the chairman denies all discussions and demands that Kyo give the answer on his own. In the meantime, Hana is enraged and wants to send Kyo back to God, but Meiko knows this is not a good time to have a crash out, so she choked Hana between her legs until she passes out. Back inside, Kyo is struggling with the right answer as he prefers melons over cakes, and seeing this, the chairman begins to suspect that he lied about liking cakes. Just then, Kyo sees a pair of cheeks at the window, which actually turn out to be Meiko's wagamamas. This gives him an idea, and he explains that when humans were monkeys, they would stick their cakes out while walking on all fours. However, as they started walking on 2 legs, the chest evolved into a pale imitation of what cakes used to be, and that is why he prefers cakes, because they're the original source of attraction. As he continues yapping, the chairman embraces him and says Kyo has passed the test with flying colors, and no man who prefers cakes can be bad. Even then, he can only grant them 1 extra day, believing that men who like cakes can get the job done in that time. Afterward, he heads outside where Marie opposes his decision, but he reminds her who's the daddy before walking off. After Kiyoshi thanks Meiko for the help, the boys return to the cell, motivated to prove that they were tricked, so they can undo their expulsion and attend the wet t-shirt contest. Meanwhile, Mari is back in her office, furious at this sudden development, when an evil-looking Hana asks permission to handle the boys for the final day. Later, the boys hold a meeting to discuss their plan, and Kyo reveals he's already put Chio to work regarding something specific. Also, Andre is going to challenge Meiko for another match during lunchtime, and Gakuto will use this chance to sneak into the corrections office once again. Shingo worries Meiko won't accept it since Andre lost last time, but Gakuto says he's thought of a new contest which will surely entice her. Meanwhile, Meiko learns that Hana will be today's overseer and protests to it as it's dangerous. She adds that Hana is mentally unstable, but Hana assures her she's fine and, in turn, asks her why Kiyoshi thanked her earlier. Meiko gets annoyed and says she has no idea, but Mari sternly asks her if she's gone too soft on the boys. As Meiko nervously denies this, Gakuto tells the boys about a bum-smacking contest, but Kyo is certain Meiko won't fall for it. However, Gakuto knows Meiko has a buttload of confidence in her cakes, and she will definitely want to be the best butt kicker in the school. He then asks Andre to be ready, and Andre blows his pants just by thinking of it. Just then, their whole plan goes to dust when Hana walks in with lunch, but Gakuto decides to try his lucky anyway. When he asks Hana if she'd like to smash cakes with him, she kicks him so hard that his head gets planted into the wall. After that, she serves food to everyone, and when it's Kyo's turn, she firmly grabs his arm and whispers that she finally remembers what happened that day. As Kyo starts sweating, she promises to have her payback before the day is over. After she leaves, Kyo joins the others at the table, but Gakuto notices that he has a terrifying look on his face. Meanwhile, Meiko is doing sweaty push-ups to punish herself for disappointing Marie. Just then, Mari walks in and assures her that she's not upset, and while wiping her sweat, she explains that the boys have started to predict Meiko's behavior. Shocked by her thoughtfulness, Meiko apologizes to Marie, and Marie assigns her a new task for today. She also comments that Meiko is quite sweaty today, and Meiko starts begging her to leave her handkerchief behind. Mari says she doesn't mind and will bring a towel next time, causing Meiko to drop to her knees in submission. That night, as the boys discuss how to reach the corrections office, they're certain Hana won't agree to the cake-smashing match. At this, Kyo says he can simply ask Hana to take him to the corrections office, as they have a beef to settle. The squad worries she will chop Kyo's sausage if they are alone, but Kyo says that's the risk he's willing to take for his homies. Later, as Anzu carries the trays to the kitchen, Chio meets her halfway and offers to help. Then in the kitchen, she searches the plates and finds a note from Kyo, asking her to come tonight after supper. As she vows to help the boys, she realizes that Anzu has been hearing the whole thing. Luckily, Anzu is on her side and offers to help her. That night, Gakudo asks Kyo to stab him with a fork, and once he does, Gakudo screams in pain. Hana comes running in to check on them, but after realizing what happened, she simply chooses to walk away. Gakudo cleverly says that something must be going on between Kyo and Hana for her not to punish Kyo, so she comes back and takes them to the infirmary to shake the shade off. After Kyo puts a bandage on Gakudo, she takes him back to the cell, but leaves Kyo outside, claiming she needs to have a word with him. As she takes him to the office, Chio and Anzu wait for the perfect time to strike, while Meiko puts on her special suit to make sure everything goes smoothly. Back in the office, she pulls out a pair of scissors and lists all the nasty things he's done to her, making Kyo think his sausage is in danger. However, Hana simply wants him to pee in a cup so she can watch him and be even. Unlike before, Kyo takes a deep breath and casually takes his trousers off, which makes Hana flustered. Realizing that she didn't expect this, Bro goes full commando and asks her to hold it while he leaks. Hana gets nervous about this, but to one-up him, she also goes full commando and decides to make it rain on him.
It should have been me, not him!
All the while, Chio is on the move, but Meiko spots her footprints and decides to follow her. Back in the office, both Kyo and Hana are at a stalemate until Kyo thinks of all the things he's done to come here. He then starts walking towards Hana, but once her back is against the door, she gets flustered and kicks him in the gut. However, as Kyo drops to his knees, he looks up and gets hypnotized by the Medusa between Hana's drumsticks. Because of this, his junior becomes senior and makes it harder for him to take a leak. Once Hana realizes this, she kicks him down and decides to make it rain on her. However, at the last second, Meiko catches someone outside and distracts everyone. Just then, they hear Anzu telling Meiko to let her go, as it's been a misunderstanding, which means Chio is still safe. Meiko then asks Hana to let her in, but Hana tells her everything is fine here, and Meiko should leave. Meiko agrees and takes Anzu away, and Chio watches from a safe distance, thanking Anzu for her sacrifice. Back in the office, Hana looks back at Kyo and realizes that he has a direct view of her pearly gates. When Kyo says he couldn't look away from her Medusa, she starts crying and asks why he's giving nicknames to her kitty. Kyo apologizes, but she breaks down as she always finds herself in embarrassing situations around Kyo. To make her feel better, he tells her that she can hit him as much as she wants, and Hana takes his words a little too seriously. Then after punching him, she suddenly locks him into a kiss, which shocks Kyo. She then proudly says that she stole his first kiss, knowing all too well that he likes Chio, and she won't be his first kiss. After Kyo admits to liking Chio, she bends down and kisses him again, vowing to steal his V card before Chio. As the boys discuss whether Anzu is on their side or not, Meiko has already pinned her down and demands that she tell them about the boys' escape plan. When Anzu refuses to talk, Meiko tells her to talk to her WAP instead, making Anzu shed tears. On the other hand, Chio crawls towards the nurse's office, where Hana continues to wrestle her tongue with Kyo, and when he begs her to stop, she says she won't stop until she sees him leak. When Kyo protests, she punches him against the wall, making a loud thud that distracts Chio. She was instructed not to go to the office until the lights go out, so she decides to wait against the wall, not knowing that things are getting heated on the other side. As Kyo waits for Hana to have her fill, he suddenly realizes that she doesn't even know how to kiss properly, meaning she's putting on a strong front. Thus, he decides to show her what that tongue can do, which overwhelms her so much that she starts bleeding from the nose. Eventually, she passes out, and Kyo unlocks the door, only for Chio to open it. In the midst of it, Kyo realizes that she will get the wrong idea if she sees him from that angle, so he shouts at her not to come in. Just then, Hana regains consciousness and calmly says that they should head back, so as he takes Kyo back to his cell, Chio sneaks into the room. Gakudo asks for permission to use the restroom, and Hana is so traumatized that she allows him. Meanwhile, Anzu passes out under Meiko's WAP, making her wonder if Anzu is truly innocent. Just then, Mari walks into the office and asks what in God's name she is doing. After Meiko explains the whole thing, Hana texts her to let her know that all prisoners are in their cells and the doors are locked. Even then, Meiko feels uneasy, and Mari suggests they check the cells personally to make sure everything is in order. As expected, they find all the boys in their beds, so Mari decides to check the corrections office, and Meiko heads to the bathroom to change her outfit. At the office, Mari finds the cup Hana created for Kyo, but before she can suspect anything, she hears Meiko's scream and runs to the baths. Turns out, Meiko had to tear open her clothes because she couldn't get out of them, and this makes Mari forget about the cup. She declares that nothing sus is going on, unaware of all the shenanigans that happened in her absence. The following day, the boys are brought to the chairman's office, and the old man reads out all the crimes they have been accused of. Even though the boys don't appeal, Mako feels a strange unease in her heart. At that time, someone is sprinting to the chairman's office, but the girls spot them and start running away from them. Back in the office, Mako senses something is off and looks at the boys to realize that Gakudo has been replaced by Chiyo. Just then, some girls dragged Gakudo into the chairman's office, as he was the person running around on campus in his plot covers. When Kiyo asks why he didn't wear Chiyo's uniform as planned, Gakudo says he wouldn't want to taint her holy dress with his filth. As Hana watches in shock, Gakudo explains how he and Chiyo switched places last night, leaving them baffled. After that, Kiyo turns to the chairman and reveals that the council created a plan to have them all kicked out of the school. Mari calls the cap, as there is no record for such a mission, but Kiyo reveals that Gakudo was able to recover the deleted files from their computer. Mari can't believe it as she personally checked the corrections office, but Gakudo reveals that his plan had already succeeded by that time. Mako argues there was not enough time to do all of that, so he must be bluffing, but Gakudo reveals he had actually done half the work ahead of time, reminding her of the day she arm wrestled them. He then pulls a drive out of his cakes, and with tears in his eyes, he hands it to the chairman. After the old man plugs it into his computer, the girl's scheme is exposed, which leaves them ashamed. At that moment, Hana realizes that Kiyo used her as a pawn to get what he wants, and when he admits to it, she gets enraged and starts beating him up. Surprisingly, Mari jumps in and takes a blow to the face, telling Hana to stop as it's already over. She apologizes to both of them for forcing them into her plans, and after she admits to everything, the chairman vows to punish her later. For now, he clears the boys of all the crimes, and minutes later, the boys are let go in their official school uniforms. A few days later, Chiyo is feeding Kiyo with her own hands. Shingo is on a date with Anzu. Andre is getting adored by his classmates. Gakudo also finds a girl with similar interests, and Joe peacefully raises his ants. Meanwhile, Kate, the president of the above-ground student council, meets with the chairman and demands that he punish the underground student council harshly, because Hana is her daughter. The chairman agrees to her demands, granting Hana, Maiko, and Mari a harsh prison sentence. As the word spreads of their imprisonment, the girls are met with Kate and her subordinates, who force them into prisoner outfits and shamefully walk them to their cells as the whole school watches. That's it for this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed and watched this video on screen.